Hey, everyone. You need to come into this podcast. The idea is this: bragging, big shot, and donuts. What do they all have in common? We'll see you there.
You're listening to the Successful Mind Podcast.
Successful people learn how to make their minds work for them.
We are Life is Now, and this is the Successful Mind Podcast. I want to talk about bragging in business. Bragging and business.
Yeah.
Bragging and business, right? So this all came up because I did a marketing workshop with our Elite Mind 365 members. And I was teaching them a strategy called the client win email strategy.
Okay.
Right? And the whole premise behind the client win email strategy is to share stories of their clients and their wins. And it was met with a pretty interesting amount of resistance. And I asked the question, because this is all over Zoom, obviously, and I'm looking at all their faces and I'm watching them, you know, as I'm taking them through the strategy, and some of them had a really hard time. Like they knew that their clients had, there were client wins because of information that they've shared or guidance that they've given, right? But they were having a really hard time writing about it. And I said,
So are they writing about this as like a testimonial?
Yeah, but not even a testimonial. Like the framework is like, when I met David, he was struggling in his business, right? And then you go through like the things that he did and the end result that David got. And if you want some help with this, respond.
Right.
It's like, it's basically like the most effective form of marketing is social proof.
Right.
Period. Right. There's a reason that people go to Amazon, because they can read reviews and they make their purchases based on reviews. And it's not just the stars, right? Yes, people look at the stars, but they click in and they read what other people have to say. So, you know, for example, when I was sick, I had the flu a couple weeks ago, I was sitting and I was scrolling through Instagram and I came across one of my most favorite feeds that I follow, which is a cooking feed. It's called Half Baked Harvest. I love it. I made like a gazillion of her recipes. She's a brilliant business owner. And there was a picture of these maple glazed donuts. And I'm sitting there like feeling like garbage, and the maple glazed donuts got me, right? Because I'm looking for something to make me feel better. Even though I know if I eat this donut, I'm going to feel awful because I have all these crazy food sensitivities. But Brandon and I got to talking and I'm like, damn, I could make these. Like I could, you know, use my own gluten-free flour and, you know, do all my things to make them really good. Healthify them, right? But yet they'd still be delicious. And I need a distraction from how crummy I'm feeling right now. So let's talk about donuts. And we went on Amazon to look for these donut pans because she didn't fry them. She baked them. And they have these pans that are donut shaped, right?
Okay.
That you pour dough into and they bake up in a donut shape, like a cake donut, right? And we noticed that one of these donut pans had 19,000 reviews. Like 19,000 people wrote reviews
on a
donut pans. And I was like, these must be really good donut pans. Like 19,000. And then I started looking at the other ones, right? And there was like a donut pan that had like 327 reviews and a donut pan that had like 9,400 reviews. First of all, I didn't know these donut pans existed until I saw that feed in Instagram.
They have quite the following, these donuts.
Now I'm like, damn, there are a lot of people that make donuts, right? Like baking them. And so this was just like one more, and I'm constant, I mean, you know my brain, like everything I do, I go camping and I'm thinking about marketing, right? I'm looking at, oh, look how this spider built their web next to where their ideal client is so it can catch lots of insects. Like my brain thinks in marketing.
Yeah, you think through the filter.
So I'm on Amazon and I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is such a testament that social proof sells, because there's a reason why this has 19,000 people see that it has more reviews than anyone else and they buy it. They go and they read through and, you know, you read through the comments and they're like, oh, this is such a light pan. Well, I want a light pan. I don't want a heavy donut pan. And oh, I made the most perfect golden brown donuts and they came out of the pan because it's nonstick. Well, I want perfect golden brown donuts that come out of a pan because it's nonstick. It's like people are in the reviews telling a story about the thing that they purchased, and I'm identifying with it saying, I want that, or I don't want that, right? That's what reviews do.
Right.
Like,
They
I
give
want
you all the
that, or
reasons.
I don't want that. And then that justifies your purchase. You make the purchase. And yes, we have 2 donut pans sitting in our kitchen waiting to be currently used, right? And yes, I bought the one that had 19,000 reviews. So I told this story to our group, and I said, what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on using your client wins as stories to allow people to see possibility for themselves, right? Because that's what I did. I saw, hey, if they can make these, 19,000 people can make damn good donuts, well, then so can I.
Right.
And this pan is the ticket, right? So I'm buying this pan. And the idea behind the marketing workshop that I was teaching is that, you've got to tell stories of how you help people so people can say, I want that, or I don't want that.
Yeah.
Right? Either way, like you want them to be like, yes, I want that, or no, I don't want that. You don't want people to be stuck in the middle of, I don't know what I want.
Right.
And so I took them through this process that laid out all the components of a well-formed client win email to send to their list. And that's when I noticed this like resistance popping up. People, got cloudy in how to think about it. They got cloudy in the confusion came in, which we know is a sabotage strategy, right?
Yep.
Anytime you feel confused, you're in self-sabotage. It's a great strategy that your subconscious mind uses to keep you exactly where you are. And it was such a simple activity, David. Like step by step, there's 6 steps, right? Like 6 steps on how to write this really effective, very, very effective and tested email formula. And I asked the group, like I was halfway through and I checked in and I'm like, how's everybody feeling right now? And some were like, great, good, fine, and then a couple people were like, I'm struggling with this. And then I said, how many of you feel like you're bragging? And several of them on Zoom raised their hand. And I thought that was really interesting because, especially growing up middle class, it's not okay to talk about how good you are.
No.
It's not an okay thing for you to brag,
Mhm.
right? You actually are supposed to hide the things that you're really good at so that you can maintain your, I hate to say this, but kind of your sheep status, right? Like,
Yeah, that's right. No, you're exactly correct.
and so I wanted to talk about it because I think there's a big mindset shift. And I think that this is a wool in sheep's clothing, actually, this bragging thing, because what we notice with a lot of business owners is that they keep themselves pretty well hidden. And they do it they do it with one of the excuses as, well, I don't want to self-promote. I don't want to brag. I don't want to seem conceited.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to talk about that with you.
Well, it is an interesting phenomenon. And of course, this is one of the values that is completely different when you become an entrepreneur than when you're working for someone else. There's so many areas that we could go with this because everything that we learn as an employee for someone is really designed to keep us safe and to keep that employment.
Yeah.
Right. So when you're employed, everybody should really think about this for a moment. When you're employed by somebody else, there's kind of this unwritten rule that you don't outshine your boss. You don't outshine the owner, right? You play the role, right? You can shine in your role, but you don't outshine anybody else. You stay within the construct of whatever that is. I've watched people get fired for doing that specifically. I've seen people get fired.
For outshining?
For outshining.
Well, it's true in families too.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? Like
well, that's where I was going.
Okay, sorry, I jumped ahead on you.
That's okay. So I was going to say, where does this come from, right? Mm-hmm. There's the whole pecking order within families, and it causes major problems. So this idea is ingrained that here's who you are, here's the role that you're in, and don't step outside of that role. And you get shamed, you get guilted, you get ridiculed, you get made fun of, all different kinds of things to keep you within the constraint of this is who you are. And it's a double-sided coin, I think, because not only is it uncomfortable for that person to break out, but it also becomes very uncomfortable for the people that are around them. If you step out of the role of who everybody else thinks you're supposed to be, it becomes very uncomfortable for those people. It's like the adage where we talk about where the moment you start to change everybody else, you force everybody else to change. They have to adapt to the change.
Yes.
And if they're uncomfortable, then that's where this response comes to push you back down into that place. Like, how dare you come
Who
out
do you
of that?
think you are?
Who do you think you are? Right, exactly.
You think you're so good. Who do you think you are?
And really seriously made fun of. Like, I remember as a kid doing a few things where I kind of stepped out a little bit. Like I was trying to step into my confidence and literally having family members go, "What are you, a big shot now?" Like, just like, I'm going to strip you right down to the knees because you stepped out. And it was like a punch in the gut as a kid, right? Because you feel good, you're excited about something, and you go too big. And instead of having any kind of civil discourse around whatever your behavior is or whatever, it's like, cut you off at the knees. So, when people decide that they're going to go down the route of being an entrepreneur or a small business owner or whatever it is, part of the deal is you're stepping into this place where you have to be in control of your self-promotion. This is not about other people approving you in order so that you could promote yourself to different levels of your own success in life. That ownership you have to take on yourself, and you have to be the one that literally tells the world about you, right?
Well, the crazy thing about this is that this email strategy actually doesn't even mention the person. It's a story of the transformation of someone that they knew and helped, right? So the email isn't about them at all. It's about the client. It's so that a prospect can read it and be like, yeah, I want that, or no, I don't want that. Or if it's possible for that person, then maybe it's possible for me, right?
Well, was there anything going on about them feeling like that they were taking credit for their clients' behavior or win?
Yeah.
So kind of bragging from the perspective of that, not allowing themselves to have a win with the win.
Yeah. And I'm like, this isn't about who's taking credit for what. This is your part of their journey. You're telling their story. Like the strategy is probably the least bragging client testimonial strategy that, I've ever seen, quite honestly, because it just tells the story. It's almost case study based, right? Like, this is where this person was when I met them. This is what they did to change. This is the result of that change. If you'd like some help getting that result, reply to the email. I mean, really, it was very, very simple, very straightforward. And it's always interesting to me that when you look at a strategy logically, it seems very simple. But then when you actually go to do it and it's pushing up against a core wound or a core negative belief or a core fear, how difficult it can seem. And we see that a lot with even our private clients, taking them through some processes that are very, very simple, but they're not. They're not easy.
No. No, it's, again, like you said, it is really interesting because you can even watch somebody else do it and go, oh, that seems simple enough. And then once you get emotionally involved in it, your subconscious mind starts limiting you based on whatever your core wound is.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm afraid to be exposed. I don't want people to reject me, whatever it might be.
Right. This popped up. So now my mind's popping into like 10 different directions. So I apologize if I'm running on tangents here. But this even shows up on websites, right? When we meet with people and I do like an audit of their website, just kind of give feedback. And it's amazing to me. The most valuable real estate on your website is the homepage above the scroll, right? It's the first thing people see.
Mm-hmm.
And so few people include testimonials and case studies above the fold. And it's one of the most effective strategies. Like, it's what people go to a website to look for. What are the case studies? What are the testimonials? It's why people go to Amazon.
Yeah.
Right? They go to Amazon to find the product and read the reviews.
Right.
Quite honestly. And people it's just easy to stay hidden. It's easy to stay small because staying small and staying hidden is safe. Feels safe. It's interesting when you were telling your story about your family, and how they were just cutting you down at the knees when you were growing. And I remember a similar story, a not similar story, but similar story. When I was in elementary school, I was really bright, like high intellect, right? Really, really high in English, really high in language. I mean, totally capable student. And there was another girl in my class who happened to have the same birthday as me, by the way. And I'm going to use a name to protect her identity in case for some reason she listens to this. We'll call her Carrie.
Carrie.
So Carrie was a straight A student. She was impeccable. She always got great grades. She always got high test scores, and everyone always made fun of her. They always made fun. She was a really nice kid. Nothing wrong with her. Didn't look weird. Like nothing crazy about, what did I call her? Carrie?
Carrie.
So, and I noticed this, right? And I remember having a conversation with my mom on the way home from school one day, and I showed her my report card, and it was B's and C's. And she was pissed. Like, she was like, you are not trying your best. And the rule in my family was, if you're trying your best, that's all I can ask for. Right? But she knew I wasn't trying my best. And she was on my case. And I'm like, she's like, why are you not getting A's? Like, what is this? And I said, I'm not getting A's because I don't want to be Carrie and I don't want to be made fun of. So I'm going to fly under the radar and get B's and C's.
Wow. You actually said that.
I actually said that.
Yeah, that's wild. I watched a lot of people in school, not just academically, but people that outshined others get completely ripped apart, made fun of constantly, brutalized, and, really seriously bullied. And I don't know that I ever had this experience, not in school myself, but I could see why somebody would tone themselves down to not draw attention to their own greatness, which will turn into a lifelong situation,
right?
For those individuals. But here's the other thing, and this part is actually kind of scary. I mean, being bullied and all that is horrible enough when you're in school. But one of the things that I do remember is having friends that had abusive parents, where if they did anything to outshine the parents, they got brutalized.
Oh yeah, because they were a constant projection,
yeah,
right?
Like, absolutely.
Yeah. But I think as entrepreneurs, you've got to realize that you need to rise above that, right? And that when you share a client win, it's actually not bragging.
No, it's not at all.
It's just not.
It's not.
It's sharing stories.
Even if you're sharing your own win, it's not bragging.
No. I mean, it's so fascinating to me because, and this happens every time we do a 90-day cohort of our Elite Mind 90-day program. At the very last session, at the 90 days, it's kind of an open forum where we say, this is for you. Come, share your wins, share what you learned, right?
Yeah.
And it is amazing to me, the wins that they've had and the awarenesses that they've had that they've not shared. Like, we have an entire Facebook group. We're constantly saying, hey, share your wins. Let's help celebrate you. And they don't. And then they wait until, okay, this is the time. We want to hear your wins. Come to this with the win. And then we hear all these amazing things and we're just like, wow.
Yep.
You didn't allow anyone to celebrate you when this was actually happening.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of sad to me.
It is. I think, so, one of them, and I think that this is interesting, like from a historical perspective also. Why is it that it's not okay for us to brag? Why do we hear that as a value growing up? I mean, so we're not supposed to talk about the good things that happen, but it's okay to sit around the dinner table and complain about everything that went wrong today, and to talk about that endlessly, for on and on and on, for hours and days and lifetimes, about how terrible the world is, or my boss, or why I can't get ahead in life, or whatever it is that you see as the problem in your life, to just continually go on with that. And yeah, it's almost like you shouldn't say that you're doing well because people that aren't, you'll make them feel bad.
So you become responsible for someone else's feelings.
Yeah.
Yes.
And but it's also like a crazy assumption. Like, why does it have to make somebody feel bad? Maybe it will inspire someone to do something different.
Yes.
Right? What if we change that value around to let's inspire each other, right? Now, I do agree that there is a bragging where a person is over exaggerating their achievements because of low self-esteem.
Yes.
I think that that's different, right? But again, it has nothing to do with anybody else. It just has to do with what that person's going through in their own growth. But when I was growing up, there was this whole idea of don't make people feel bad because you're doing better than they are. And I never really understood that. And I've also heard other people say, like, when you hear somebody like over complaining, like they'll give them a little shot, like quit bragging about your problems. Because it is in a very big way. It really is. You're looking for attention, right?
Yes.
When you're going over and over constantly about your problems, you're really looking for some kind of attention. So what if the idea was that we changed where I was going with this was today it's more of a problem than probably ever. Like we've got this whole thing today. I saw something the other day where it was like, you should ask permission before you talk about anything in your life that's good, because there might be people around you that will automatically feel bad or be triggered by your comment.
Where in the hell did you see that?
It was on social media.
Oh
it was on social media.
So you might as well just like hole up in a house in the woods by yourself and not talk to another single human being.
Yeah, well, it's so bad. It's even going into some self-identity stuff, right? There was one where I read where they said if you're a white person, you shouldn't just assume that black people want to be around you. You should ask permission before you enter an area where there's black people because they might be triggered because you're white. So it's gotten that bad. I mean, it's gone right into a complete ideology of it's not okay to be you at all. There's something wrong with you, and just you as a person may be triggering to other people, and therefore you should really watch your behavior.
Well, it's a total shirking of personal responsibility.
Completely.
Like if somebody's triggered, that's their personal responsibility.
Exactly. But if you think about it, if you think about the contrast in that stuff, like when we were a kid, it was like, don't brag because you don't want to make somebody else feel bad. And it's like, okay, I can understand that to a little point. Like if somebody's really down and you're not actually helping them feel better, right? Like they're suicidal and you're like, my life's fucking great. Yeah, baby, your life sucks. I could totally get that. I would totally understand that. But that's not what we're talking about. And to not work in an uplifting way just keeps society down to this place where now people believe that there's almost like this deservability in their own loathing of where they are. They don't accept responsibility. They've bought into victimization as an ideology. They identify with it very deeply, and nothing should come anywhere around them to suggest that, maybe they could be better than they are, because if you do that, you're really going to hurt me. And I think that what the people were communicating to you, there's almost like a fear of that. That's, like if I go too far, people won't like me. And with business, it's people won't buy from me, right? I mean, let's just say it. There's this whole thing about earning. So the psychological idea about overcoming that, I think, is number one, it's fantastic for you to talk about what you're doing and how good you're doing, because you have to, I believe if we don't continually work on our self-esteem, society will rip it apart.
Well, that I agree 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot in society supports an individual's self-esteem.
Not anymore, it doesn't. Not anymore. And that's actually different, because when we were kids, there were a lot of things in community. And it wasn't like the world was perfect, but there were a lot of things in community that did support that. And you could get kids involved in things that actually support the building, like the Cub Scouts or the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts, all what was the junior achievement. Like there were a lot of different things that really helped people build skills and confidence so that they could more step into their adulthood being much more solid in who they are. And today it's almost like that's like a no-go. It's not okay. It's not actually okay to be a healthy human being in a way.
I agree. I mean, I think that, it's like shame on you for being happy and having a nice life.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I don't feel bad about having a nice life. I really don't.
No, I don't either.
Do you ever find yourself holding back from sharing? Because I know I do. Like holding back some of my wins, if you will, where I don't want to make, and this is, to put it in a context, where I came from, I'm always very cognizant of not, this is the old me, but not outgrowing the people that I used to see every single summer I would go home. So my human highlight reel on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it was always muted slightly because I didn't want to say, look at me, I'm, the guy who got out. So the question I have is, do you ever hold yourself back and maybe still celebrate, but you mute it a little bit just so as not to make other people feel a certain way? Just throwing it out there.
I think that I choose who I celebrate with.
Yep. I was going to say
I wouldn't share a win with someone who doesn't have the capacity to join me in that win.
And I don't see that as holding back. I think that is choosing what you share.
Yeah, with whom you share it with, right?
Right.
Like there are certain things that, like certain wins that I wouldn't share with my family because they just don't have the capacity to understand the win, for one, or even celebrate it. But I would share that. I wouldn't hesitate to share that win with someone else, right?
Yeah, sure.
And you put yourself, when you do that, you put yourself in a position to be berated instead of celebrated, right? Because they don't be, and I mean, this is a psychological fact with most new things. When new things come down the pike, most people attack them first, right? It goes through a whole process before they're accepted. And it's the same thing with individuals, right? If I show up having changed in the family unit, and that's what it is that I'm talking about, because they don't understand it, they have to self-justify, and they're going to project, and they're going to make fun of or put down what I'm doing. So I'm not about that, right? So that's not a healthy or productive conversation. So I don't see it as holding back. Like Steph said, it's choosing who to have what conversation with. There's a thing. I mean, it's appropriate conversation. You would not have an adult conversation with children, right?
Right.
Because they couldn't understand it. They don't have the ability to respond. It's the same thing with certain people. You're around people that don't understand what you're doing. They don't have the ability to respond. They can't even participate in the conversation from a productive place. So you choose to have a different conversation.
Yeah.
But not holding back, T, as in I feel bad about what I've done, or I don't want to make them feel bad.
Yeah, sure. And I think that's part of the reason I brought that up, is because I can see the growth in myself in this area in particular, because there was a time maybe 3 or 4 years ago when I had to get off of social media for a time. I'm still off of it now, but this was even before the election chaos of 2020. I was thinking to myself, like, I would go out and do all these amazing things. I'd be posting on Instagram on the daily. I was one of those obnoxious people who took pictures of their food in exotic locales and did all these sorts of things just so I could mark the moment, right? But then I would see other people in my feed doing the same thing, and immediately I'd get triggered. I'm like, who are you to be able to think you can do that thing when I was doing the exact same thing? So the self-esteem part wasn't where it is now, and I'm able to get beyond it because A, I've aged and I've done the work on myself. But it was really interesting to see my reaction. That's why I bring it up, because social media is rampant with human highlight film and the best of the best. But when we're celebrating our clients, like when you guys put out posts about the things that people are doing, that is not a bragging of anything. That is just recognizing the hard work in a real and authentic way. We are not fabricating these things. And I think that's what's important. And that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah. I get excited to celebrate our client wins because I feel like I'm highlighting them.
Yeah.
Like I'm celebrating them. Like, I'll get a text that says, hey, we just wrapped up a launch and we hit over 6 figures, better than we thought. Take a screenshot, put it out on Facebook and say, guys, help me congratulate this person on hitting this huge milestone. And then other people will be like, oh, that's great. Congratulations. So it's actually not about me. It's not about you. It's not about us. this is a really amazing thing that someone created, and they should be celebrated for it.
Yeah. It goes back to that whole thing, like when I've done financial set point training, the idea is like people don't understand one of the major things that's controlling the amount of money they make is the exposure at the opposite ends of that money, either not having it or having too much of it, right? And people seeing them and judging them in that space. If I start putting out all of this really cool material about how my clients are doing so well, now I'm seen differently, right? And if I don't know what to do with that, if I haven't learned the skills to process that, it's going to be something I'm going to want to withdraw from and not even probably know why I'm withdrawing from it, which is interesting.
Well, it's fascinating to me because even in having conversations with some of our clients, they didn't even know that they were resisting doing this. Like it wasn't even an option in their mind to share their client wins, right? Like
it didn't dawn on them.
It didn't even dawn on them that it was a possibility because of those inside beliefs, right? Like, stay small, stay safe, stay in control.
Right, stay in control.
That's a big one, right? You get too big, then you risk losing control.
Right.
And that's really big because most entrepreneurs are pretty what do I want to say here? Most entrepreneurs love control.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that could be a good thing. It could also be not great thing.
Well, that's like anything,
yes.
Right? Everything has a sweet spot, right? You have to have control as an entrepreneur, but if you have too much control, you can't be an entrepreneur.
Correct. Because you can't grow.
You can't grow.
Right. Yeah. I think it's a fascinating phenomenon that happens. This is just like public service announcement, y'all, like share your client wins.
Absolutely.
Do you have a way to go about that? Is there like a right way to do it, or is it just throw it out there? Like when you're celebrating your clients, do you pick a particular area of social media to do it? Do you do it through email? Do you reach out to the person first? So if I'm a person listening to this and I want to, put it out there and show some social proof because it boosts my standing in the community, what is the way to go about doing it from the best amplification standpoint?
Well, one of the things that Steph's talking about is using it as a marketing strategy.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's probably several different ways that this can be done. One of them is a marketing strategy where you're actually using it strategically to help boost the relationship between you and whoever you're doing. And the other one might just be doing it as a friendly celebration.
Yeah.
Right. With amongst a group, like support in a way.
Yeah. Like in our Transformation 2022 Facebook group, right? We'll post wins in there because I think it's great. It's an example of transformation. It's in line with the culture and the ideals of that Facebook group. In email, it's a marketing strategy. It's so people can read someone else's story and like my review on Amazon, reading the reviews on Amazon, like, hey, I want that. And a lot of times you assume that people understand that you assume that people know what it is that you do, right? In our head, we know what we do, right? Mm-hmm. But it's very true in most businesses. A lot of people that follow you don't actually know like what you do and how you help people unless you tell them what you do and how you help people. Right? So it's a great opportunity to showcase like, this is the transformation. These are the tangible results that are possible for you too. Do you want our help with that?
Absolutely. I agree.
And then in terms of social media, I'm a big fan of permission first, honestly. Like if we get a good testimonial or someone that sends me an email that's really incredible, I'll reach out and say, hey, can I celebrate you publicly? And I've never had a no.
Yeah.
Like I've never had a no.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, absolutely, celebrate. And like, thank you. And it's a growth experience for them too. Right? Because then they get the kudos on social media and they get to sit in the discomfort of being seen.
Right. And
so,
how many people didn't get celebrated in their life as a kid growing up?
Oh,
and
man.
This might be the first opportunity to help open that door to that amazing experience for them. It's an incredible gift.
Yeah. I know when we did a free training several months ago, and I've mentioned her name many times, Megan Pastrana had agreed to to share her story with our audience. We actually created a case study based on the incredible growth that she's had. And I reached out to her and said, hey, will you share your story with our audience? Like, well, actually, I just started sharing her story and she was on the training and I had permission to do that. And she actually reached out to me and said, that was such a valuable experience for me to be seen like that in front of 100 or, several hundred people and to see their reaction to my story and for me to not like want to cower over it. It was a real growth experience for her as well. So, I think as business leaders, we need to share our wins. And I think even in like sharing your wins with your team, like your small wins, what are your personal wins? What are your weekly wins? It's something we do every single Friday.
Yeah.
Our team gets on Zoom and everyone goes around and we share our wins for the week.
Here's, as you're listening to Steph and I talk about this, ask yourself if there's anything about this that feels uncomfortable. Because if it feels uncomfortable, it's definitely a growth edge for you. It's like you need to really address this because so much of a person's success as a business owner is literally celebrating something, right? A product, a service, a person, a client, a result, a win. There has to be a shameless self-promotion of something going on. And because you're the owner, you're the best one to be able to really start to develop doing that in a great way. And there is a skill to it. I mean, it's not, you learn how to do it in ways that exemplify different things based on what it is that you want to be seen and how you want to communicate it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with it.
Nope. Be a big shot. That's what I say.
Ooh, I like
Be a
that.
big shot. I
Be
love
a
that.
big shot.
I love that.
I do too. So speaking of growth edge, I'd like to get back to talking about donuts for a minute. Is that okay? Because
Oh my God.
we kind of just breezed over that. We're talking about bragging
Dude,
on
they
social
looked
media.
so good.
I bet they did.
They were maple glazed.
Who the hell doesn't like a maple
That's
glazed
happening
donut?
this weekend. Well, as we're doing this, we're about 6 months away from National Donut Day, which takes place the first Friday in June.
Only
And
you would know that.
Absolutely. No, it's thanks to my friends on the internet. But here's the thing. Do any of you know which country eats the most donuts?
The U.S.?
No, it's not the U.S., but they're very close to the U.S.
Canada?
You betcha.
Oh.
It's the Canadians. Of course, they got Timmy Hortons up there.
Tim Horton,
Who
baby.
doesn't love some Tim
That's the
Hortons, right?
best.
That's one of the top 5 donut places. According to this website I came across, it was ranked in the top 5 of the most popular donut shops frequented by police officers. And I know that's an old standby, but see if any of these ring your bell. Winchell's. Do you remember Winchell's?
I remember Winchell's,
Used to have that,
definitely.
yep. Shipley's, not familiar with that one.
No.
That's in the South. Timmy Hortons, of course.
Yeah.
Dunkin'.
Dunkin'.
Yeah,
Yeah,
clearly.
Dunkin',
And then
yeah.
number 1. What do you think number 1 donut place is in the U.S.?
Krispy Kreme?
Krispy Kreme. Fascinating piece about Krispy Kreme, founded right up the road here in Winston-Salem. Can you believe that? I mean, donuts around this part, I'm excited. I'm passionate about donuts right now.
I can tell.
I'm so passionate about it. But yeah, when you start talking about Krispy Kreme, I had no idea that it was basically in our backyard where those were started. And that was in 1937.
Tim Hortons is, because I've spent so much time in Canada in my career for various different reasons. Tim Hortons is very much what Dunkin' Donuts used to be back in the day. Dunkin' Donuts made a damn good donut, and it was a great place to go. You used to get coffee there before Starbucks and all of that. And Hortons is like that today.
Sure.
It's a much more up-leveled experience than what Dunkin' has become.
Absolutely.
And I think that, I do remember Winchell's. I do remember Winchell's, but I was going to say that Krispy Kreme really kind of knocked Dunkin' Donuts on their ass.
Yeah, they sure did. Let me ask you this. What's your favorite? What's your go-to? What do you got? You get one donut right now, right here, delivered to this very desk. What are you taking?
One donut. So are we talking in a traditional sense of a donut, or are we talking like
the updated gourmet donuts with
Hey,
all
if
kinds
you
of
want to
weird
throw
toppings?
a French donut in there, aka the beignet from Café Du Monde, be my guest. You can do what you want to do. However you want it. You make the rules right now, and I'm not bragging about that. That's a tough one. I got mine. I'm going maple iced all day long. They call it a long john in some parts of the world. We call it a maple stick back in Montana. It was just
we
a
call
beautiful
them,
maple glaze.
There was also chocolate covered ones in Chicago that they called Long Johns.
We call them long johns in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Not putting cream in those babies.
Those
No,
were
no.
those were good. And I'm also, it's like, here's something we haven't talked about. What about the donut hole?
I know we haven't even touched the donut hole. That we don't want to go down a rabbit hole on the donut hole right now.
So like you get a box of 30
yes.
or whatever of the different kind of
they
flavored
call them
donuts.
munchkins, I think, at Dunkin'.
So all right, so here's my favorite. The one, I don't know if they still call it this because I haven't had a donut and I can't remember how long. A Bismarck.
Okay. Oh, I remember the Bismarck.
Yeah, Bismarck.
That's a good quality pick.
Mm-hmm.
I like an apple cider donut, an apple cider cake donut.
Just straight up cake donut.
That's tossed in cinnamon and sugar.
I totally changed my mind. I forgot about that. Because Edwards Apple Orchard.
I knew
all
as
of
soon
you,
as I said
all of our Illinois
Yeah.
followers there, if you go up in North Boone County to Edwards Apple Orchard, although I think it's probably out of season right now, but in the fall, they got the best damn cider donuts in the world, man. That and a cup of cider and
coffee.
Well, we're going to have to try Steph's donuts that she's going to make, over the course of the weekend. We'll have to sample some of those and see how they are.
how can you go wrong with 19,000 people behind your pan?
That's
I know.
true. That's a nice looking pan,
I'm
too.
feeling pretty confident.
$8.7 billion industry, the donut is, annually in the United States.
8.7 billion?
Billion as in B. That's Musk money right there. That's crazy, insane money right there. But that's a donut. I'm so glad that we're able to have this conversation because we covered all manners of things, but now I know what to get you for the holidays.
Well, the donut makes people smile, I think.
It sure does.
And it's got a hole in it.
And it does have a hole in it.
It's convenient.
You can get them on your fingers. You wear them like rings. So there you go. This has been fun. Thank you.
You bet. All right, we just came out of the donut hole, and it was an interesting conversation. How do we go? Like, these are really interesting, how we can go from one topic to another that have actually nothing related, but in some way we make the connection. Thanks for listening, and sign up, subscribe for us. Subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. I think that's a good idea. Tell your friends about our podcast. We love you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Successful Mind Podcast. If you like what you've heard and you want to know more, go to lifeisnowinc.com.